Welcome grade 10s to today's fantastic show, Learn Extra Live. You're here with me, Megan Smith, and of course my lovely leading lady, Cheryl. We're the only two girls here on a Wednesday, I hope you know. And it seems that I'm quite liked here on a Wednesday because they just keep asking for me back on life sciences. And funny enough, I've never ever done it at school. So please forgive me if you ask me questions, but I will make sure to answer all of them for you. Cheryl, what will we be doing today?
Hi, good evening. Welcome grade 10s. We're back to a new section of work, ecology, and we're going to be looking at the Biosphere and Biomes today.
Wow, so we've actually like branched away from kidneys and the lungs and all that other kind of bio stuff. But I'm first going to tell you where to get all your information. First of all, I will be on the page for this whole hour, grade 10s, exactly this whole hour, which is at facebook.com/learnextra. And I'll be on Twitter, which is @LearnExtra. And just in case you want an extra lead, I'll give you the notes for today's show, and that you can also find at mindset.co.za/learnextra. And extras with an X, just in case you're wondering. But before I forget, let's just go. I just want to say hi to Batoni Trading, which is the girls who I work with, and I think I should give it over to you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Megan. She's never too old to learn in life science. She's realized that what a fantastic subject she didn't take when she was at school. I'm afraid, unfortunately, we are finished with all the hearts and the kidneys and the lungs and the skeleton and everything. We're now going to look at what I call our beautiful part of the country. We're actually going to look at what our country looks like, and we're going to look at it from an ecological and a biodiversity perspective. All right. Lots of terms that are going to start coming tonight, so you're going to need to listen carefully when we speak about certain words. You're going to hear biomes, you're going to hear biosphere, abiotic, biotic. So you need to listen quite carefully when it comes to the names so that you know exactly what we are going to talk about. Okay, so let's stop messing around. We're going to start. They've changed this whole smart board setup as well now, and they've re-upgraded and everything. So I feel like I'm back like a fish out of water trying to get used to everything. Okay, what we're going to look at first is we're going to define the term biosphere. And when we look at the term biosphere, we're going to see, quite simply, it's how we have this giant, big, living, Earth, and how we divide it into pieces and how slowly we can break it down into smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller sections, right? And basically what we're going to look at is to see how do we sustain life? Where are we going to find life? And that's we're going to be looking at the biosphere. And when we look at ecology, we also need to understand that we can't look at things in separate portions all the time. We're going to look at it as a whole. The word we're going to use here, interconnectedness. All right? Things all these different realms don't exist on their own. All right? They're all connected together. They're all linked together. Okay? And then we're going to take a look at our South African biomes, the areas of land that are differentiated because of their climates, their vegetation, their animals, all of those things we're going to have a look at closer. So you need to pay a bit of attention to that. Okay, let's start off. This is very important, this key concept. Okay, biosphere. All right, very important when we get to it. Let's start off here with these. Okay, this is what we want. This is the most important thing, that it's the part of the planet that supports life. Okay, so we're looking at this whole, right? And in this whole, there is going to be life. And now life is going to exist in three places, if I could use it. I want you to have a look over here at this diagram. The three places, some of you like to refer to it as the elements, all right? And that's going to be the air, the land, and the water. We are going to find living things in the air, we're going to find them in our land, in our soil, and we're going to find living things in our water. But we're going to use a little bit more of a terminological term, if I can say that. Land, air, water, simple. We're going to use its proper term. When we look at air, we're going to look at atmosphere. Our atmosphere is our air. All right? here we have got water, hydro, all right? Remember, whenever we talk about water, hydro meaning water. So our hydrosphere is the area, sphere is like an area where the creatures, right, are going to, or the organisms are adapted to living in water. Then our land is our lithosphere. Let me put it over here. So you need to understand, atmosphere is air, lithosphere is land, and hydrosphere is water. Now all of these together form the biosphere. So all living things are in the biosphere, and then we divide. You know how our biologists like to divide things up. So we have air, we have land, and we have water. And when we look at it, we need to understand that the air, the land, and the water aren't separate. We can find those elements together all of the time. Remember what I said to you in the beginning? That interconnectedness. Now you need to think about that. Right, let's have a look quickly. You need to have a bit of a background to what those of you who've done geography, right, you might have a little bit more of an easier background. Let's start off with the land. I'm sure all of you at some stage, you had to take geography when you do your HSS, and you know that the earth, all right, consists of what we call the crust. Okay, here we go. Very simply, we have a layer of land that goes around, right, a whole planet, even underneath the ocean. Right, underneath the ocean floor, there's still land. Now, what have we got on land? Land, when we think about land, you need to think about soil. Right? Because ultimately what soil is, was originally it was rock, all right? Originally it was rock, and as all the weather conditions and as time goes by, that rock starts to weather. It starts to crumble and get smaller and smaller, and that is going to be your soil. And in your soil, you're going to have your different plants and all of those that are going to decay, and they're going to enrich your soil. They're going to make it nutrient full, and then what you're going to have is you're going to have plants grow. And when you've got soil and you've got plants, you've got animals feeding on plants. You've got the whole oxygen from photosynthesis coming in. So do you see where the land is going to be so important? So lithosphere, when we talk about the land, it's the lithosphere. Now another word that I want you need to start looking at. All right, and is this one, terrestrial. When we talk about land, we talk about a terrestrial environment. As opposed to later, when we look at water, we speak about aquatic. So when we refer to terrestrial organisms, we're talking about organisms that live on land, as opposed to aquatic organisms living on water. All right, another word that you're going to come across, especially when we look at the abiotic factors of the environment, is topography. And what topography, as you can see there, is the shape of the earth. All right, I can guarantee you that it's not just flat. There's high mountains, there's valleys, there's steep slopes, there's gentle slopes. Some slopes face the north, some slopes face the south. All of their position actually is going to have an effect on the organisms that are going to stay there. So topography, all right, is the shape of the land, and the shape has an effect, right? If you're going to be on the north and the south, the sun, all right, degrees of temperature are different. So you're going to find different organisms living on that, but we're going to be getting to that in later lessons. Okay, I said to you here, very important, those of you, if we have a look, I just want to go there. I've said to you, the soil, it weathers. That's where the plants can grow. Plants grow, the soil nutrient full, and that brings up a whole lot of diversity. Okay, the next one, atmosphere, the air. You don't have to know this diagram, all right? It's just showing you, those of you again who've done geography, it's just showing you that there's quite a bit All right, there's quite a bit of layers of air above the earth. Okay, not just our little one over here. But what is the most important thing about air? Okay, air has got oxygen in, right? 21% of the Earth's air is oxygen. 79% is nitrogen. So what do all living things need? Okay, have a look here. All living things need oxygen. So what are we going to find in the air? In the atmosphere is the oxygen, and that oxygen is going to give the life-giving gas for all living organisms. Okay, all right, so now we've got one thing. We've got the land, the soil, the nutrients ready for plants. We've got the air, the atmosphere. And one thing you must also remember about the atmosphere is that it actually protects us from the harmful radiation, all right, of the sun's rays. So not only is it the air, the oxygen that gives us life to breathe, cellular respiration, but it also protects us against the radiation from the sun. Okay, now the hydrosphere is water. Hydro, all right, is water. And I'm going to show you this diagram at the bottom here. We often, when we think of water, we don't always realize that nearly 70% of the Earth's surface is covered in water. So the hydrosphere has got a great amount of biodiversity. Now, when we talk about water, it can be salt water or it can be fresh water. And can remember, water doesn't always have to be in liquid form. Lots of our water is actually frozen, right, in the form of ice. So it's still there, right? The water is still present, but it's not always readily available. So when it comes to our water, all right, what do we have? Let's go back here. Okay, we have look at what we call the oceans, rivers, lakes, all right, even the moisture in the air, right, that is made up of water. And remember what I said to you, the word again, when we use terrestrial to denote land. When we talk about the hydrosphere, we're talking about water, and we use the term aquatic, right? We use the term aquatic. Now, when I use the word interconnectedness, let's take, for example, a little puddle in the middle of the road. So, for example, in a pothole. There, what are you going to find there? There is land, all right, because it's in the crust, but water has filled, all right, in this little pothole. And what do we find dissolved in that water? We're going to find oxygen. We're going to find air. So we can never say that one of the spheres, right, is totally separate or apart from each other. All of them form this global interconnectedness. The hydrosphere and the atmosphere and the lithosphere are always, well, usually found together, right? And that is what we call our biosphere, our living components. So it's always connected. Okay, if you have a look over here, there's an animal on land right next to water where there's a tree, and everything is connected to each other. And that's what we talk about, as I said again, the global interconnectedness. Now, what we also find, all right, two factors that are present in the biosphere, and you might have done it when you were in grade 8 or 9, is the living components and the non-living components, all right? The abiotic and the biotic. Biotic are living. What are the living components? Those are your animals, your insects, your plants, your bacteria, your fungus, all right? Those are the living components. We call them the biotic. They are very, very dependent on the abiotic. Have a look at my abiotic. Right. when my grade 8s do this, some of them, what I make them do is I make them collect tin cans. And what I do is I place the tin cans, they have to make a pyramid. And at the bottom of the pyramid, all right, they have to put these factors, the abiotic. They have to put sunlight, they have to put water, they have to put soil, and they have to put air. And on top of that, I make them put a few cans, right, of plants, then animals, and then humans. And quite simply, all they have to do is they have to take one of those abiotic factors away. So we take away sunlight, we take away water, we take away oxygen, right? We take away the soil. And just by taking one of those, what tends to happen is the whole pyramid falls down. These abiotic factors, all right, have a huge impact on what living factors are going to be there. So if I were to say to you, if the temperature was very, very warm, it's highly unlikely I am going to be seeing a polar bear, all right, stomping through the tropical forests. I'm sure I'm not going to find a camel right in the middle of Antarctica. So the organisms, the environment that we find is going to have an impact on the organisms that we find there. The abiotic has an effect on the biotic. Okay, next one. This might look a bit confusing, but I think this diagram at the bottom over here explains it all. In English, I think you call it degrees of comparison. And quite simply, what it means is going from the big to the small. Now, what do I love to say? Biologists, what do we love doing? We love to classify things and put them into order. So we do it. We have a look at our biosphere, this large area supporting life. But if we take a look at it closely, what do we notice? We notice that there are areas that show same kind of climate, same kind of vegetation. So we start to see large areas of land that are similar. Okay? And we take those large areas of land and we group them together and we call them a biome. So the scientists, we've taken the Earth, all right, and we've noticed, what do we see? That there's certain regions that have got characteristic vegetation, climate, etc. And we've called that a biome. So we have all these different biomes. But if I look closely into a biome, what do I notice? I notice that there's not all just a tree here and this there, that there are different little systems that make up this biome. And that is my ecosystem. All right? So I've got this large biosphere. I break it down into similar parts, the biomes. In those biomes, I have ecosystems. I have my abiotic and my biotic. If I look closer, all right, say for example, let's take our Kruger Park. All right, that would be a huge big ecosystem. What do I find? I've got a community of elephant here, community of impala here. All right, then I've got, and I look closer and I see, okay, here's all the different animals, but let me go and look a little bit closer. All right, what do I find? A population, one species of impala. So taking something big and working it down into something small, right, that is how we work on our degrees of comparison from a biome to a population. I think, are we ready?
Ready for a break?
I need water. My throat is like...
Perfect. Well, I hope you guys are learning about the lithosphere, not yet though, the biosphere, and I just posted a really, really good pic, which is from notes actually. So I hope you grade 10s go have a look. And guess what? We'll see you right after the break. Welcome back, grade 10s. I hope you had a fantastic ad break. And I just want to tell you that mindset needs you. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be posted on the page right now. It's something you should go, your teachers, you should go and tell them that they need this. So I'm going to read it to you. It says, grade 10 to 12 cats, it's content development, review, and video presentation. So go visit mindset.co.za/learn/jobs. You register on that website, tell your teachers to please, please, please come. It's a CAPS development for grade 10s to 12s, and the competition ends August 26th. So I just had to tell you about that. And also, I'm going to be on facebook.com/learnextra. Guys, get posting. I want to talk to you. Please, please, please. And Cheryl wants to answer questions. I know she does. So let's get going with the Biosphere and Biomes.
Yes, please send me some questions because I'm landed up here staring at Megan's bright green
socks.
Horrendous. She's got fluffy socks. Her feet must be very warm. All right, we're carrying on now with our section. We're going to start looking at biomes, and we're going to be looking at our South African biomes. But two terms again that we're going to look at. Firstly, we're going to divide our biomes. Now she's showing everybody. How am I supposed to concentrate when you're showing everybody your socks?
Our director said, please show everyone your socks. So
you're going to make me go all like crazy today. All right, we're going to look at the two sets of, when we look at biomes, all right? Remember what I said, terrestrial and aquatic. So we're going to have terrestrial biomes, which is biomes that are going to be on the land, and then we're going to have our aquatic biomes, which are going to be in water. I've taken some of the pictures. You'll see when it comes to our country, we have such beautiful pictures that we can use. There's our countryside, and then we talk about our aquatic, all right, our beaches, our rivers, our lakes. And remember, underneath in the ocean, there's a huge diversity, all right, of living organisms. So now I'm going to take you through each of the biomes. You should have, what I would suggest that you do, first of all, you need to get a map of South Africa, okay, Southern Africa. You'll see it in the notes that I've given you. There's a nice blank one that you can use, but must be aware of the different regions, okay? We're going to look at 7 terrestrial biomes. And if you have a look at the country, all right, if we have a look at the key, you will notice, again, remember what a biome is. Large areas of land that are going to show similar characteristics, albeit vegetation, climate, the animal life there, the soil type there. That's all we're going to see a similarity across a large area, which, as you can see by the colors over here, all right, we divide our South Africa, all right, our South African area into the 7 biomes. We are going to be looking at savanna, the grasslands. We're going to be looking at the Nama-Karoo, the succulent karoo, the fynbos, and then we've got 2 small little ones that we're going to look at, which is the forest and the thicket. Okay, not huge big biomes, but they are present, and we're going to take a quick squiz at that. What I'm going to do now, when I've set up the notes, what I've done is I've used circles because it's not, I can't say that it's boring, all right? But this is the learning kind of thing that you need to do. So when it comes to the biomes, unfortunately, it's just to sit down, have a map in front of you, and you should, or trace it, something like that. And what you should be doing is you need to put a line out, put a label, and you say grasslands, and you jot a few things down. You'll see that's exactly what I've done. I've taken important concepts, all right? And I've said, okay, the summer here is hot. There's winter rainfall here. These are the kind of animals I'm going to find. These are the kind of plants that I'm going to find. This, because I don't have so much rain, that's going to have an effect on that. So when we look at the biomes, all right, you have it, study with pictures, have the map, identify the area. This is the country that we live in. So you need to know it. You know your provinces. All right, and we take it and you jot down all these characteristics. So at the end, you haven't got writing after writing. You've got this nice, what we call annotated diagram. Okay, let's start with number 1. It is our largest biome. This is the savanna. Okay, now have a look. First thing that you need to know is, where is it? Okay, just don't say it's at the top there at the north. Have a look. It stretches all the way here from the Kalahari, all the way right into our northern province, which is our Limpopo. It is a large area of land. Okay, so already, first thing I do, I'm looking at my map and I'm looking at the area. Those people who live in that area already should start to think, okay, when I go driving around, what are the kind of things that I'm going to see? What kind of climate is? When do I get rain? When is it hot? When is it cold? Right? So now we need to put that into place. So we know, first of all, I know where it is. It's up there, Northern Province, Limpopo, down into, all right, the Northern Cape. Now, when I talk about Savanna, all right, this is important. Lots of people, when they think about the Savanna, all right, the word that comes to them, that's the Bushveldt. All right, that is what we're going to think of, Bushveldt. Then when we think of Bushveldt, we really start, the animals pop into our head immediately. That's where we go hunting. All right? That's where we go hunting. The Bushveldt, what are we going to find there? Oh, I'm going to find the big five. I'm going to find the wildebeest. So I'm going to find the buffalo. I'm going to find the elephant. I'm going to find the lion. All right? So already popping up in my brain is the animal part of it. Okay. Now, let's take that thing. Let's take this biome and let's break it up into the parts. Look what this is how I've done. I like color. All right. So first of all, I've put a picture in the middle of a typical savanna scene. Typical Bushveldt scene. Large open spaces. Have a look at the trees. One of the trees that always comes up when you think of the Bushveldt. All right, there we go.
The ones from the Lion King.
The ones from Lion King.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
The thorn trees. All right. What are they? They're large, big thorn trees. Right. The FNB's bank symbol is
all that.
All the same. It's typically South African.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those of you who come from Limpopo, the upside down tree, the baobab. See how already just looking at the different, we're starting to think, oh, these are things that I notice. All right, in this province over there. So I've got my wildlife. I've got these large plains with all these animals. The trees are thorny. It's wide open spaces. It's not lots and lots of vegetation, all right, together. So then I start to think, okay, if it's not a lot of vegetation together, then surely I don't have rain all of the time. So I am going to have dry seasons. So let's break it down. What do I find? Okay, here we go. Summers are hot and wet. So I have summer rainfall. Okay, those of you who've been to the Northern Province, very hot up there in Messina. What are my winters? My winters are not really severe. They're cool, all right, and they're dry. So they're not very, very cold. And because they're not very, very cold, all right, you'll find that it's not going to influence your vegetation and your animals to such an extent. So you have almost like a mild consistency. But because you don't have all of this rain, you're not going to have these forests and these large, huge, big evergreen trees. You're still going to have trees that are adapted to slightly dryish conditions, but there's definitely not desert. Okay? The rainfall, it's plenty, there's enough rainfall. What do we notice? The soil, there's living things. There's lots of grass, there's lots of trees. The soil is quite fertile. Can be a little bit sandy, all right? A little bit of sand, a little bit of weathering, but not too much. So when I think of my savanna, all right, these are the things that I'm looking at. The trees, especially the animals and the vegetation, they are the things that pop up into your mind immediately, all right? All of my wild animals, or most of them. My marula tree, my baobab tree, the thorn tree. Okay, so when I think Bushveldt, and that is our largest biome, it's also where we make a lot of money from hunting, right, which helps with our economy. Us here in Joburg and Pretoria, this is our biome. Okay, I'm going to change, there we go, the color. There it's a large area. Right, often we refer to it, in the old days it was referred to as the high veld. right above the plateau. It's, remember, those of you who go down to Durban, we're on a higher piece of land. Then as you go down to the coast, it goes down like that. That's the plateau, it's the higher part of the land, central there. Okay? And what we're going to find, we go down into KwaZulu-Natal, yes, and again, it's a large area. Okay, you're going to find that there are some mountain regions. Okay, let's have a look here. Have a look at the pictures. First of all, grass. There we go. Grass. Go driving. Right, go out into the wilderness. Go out into the nature. Lots and lots of flat ground. Those of you who drive through Bloemfontein.
I'm going to Durban for the long weekend this weekend.
You're going to drive past.
I'm going to sugar canes and...
While you're going, tick off the biomes. See if you can remember the lesson
Okay,
from
then I'll
today.
name some for you guys.
You can name some. People will think you're intelligent, so well done. All right. What we're going to notice, if you have a look here, all right, guinea fowl, I put the wildebeest in, all right, but this reminds me, all right, this reminds me of the grasslands. Thunderstorms, hailstorms. Most of us, when do we have rain? Most of our rain is in summer, right? What are our winters like? Our winters, this year we're not quite sure, right? But our winters can be very cold. We can get frost, can be so cold. This looks like snow, but it's not, all right? Those of you who've woken up in the morning and it looks like it snowed, it's all white, that's frost. What else can we get? At the moment, veld fires. Because the grass gets so dry, all right, and you get some stupid people who flick their cigarettes out into the road, and veld fires become quite common, all right? So because of that dry brittleness. When we talk about the soil is fertile. Yes, look at this. Rolling plains of grass. But what we do have, the rain, all right, having the rain, it can leach the soil to a certain extent, and it can be quite acidic. So if we have a look, our summers, hot and wet, yes, they are quite hot, right? And we get our rain from there. Our winters, cold. We can get frost. Sometimes we can get snow, not usually, right? What is in the summers? We have these thunderstorms, we have these hailstorms, which are characteristics of our area. And then we've got our, not as much of a variety as our savanna, but we do have, all right, we do have those. Remember, we mustn't think about domesticated animals. We're talking about our wild, right? But mostly we're going to find grass. Okay, next one. Now this is where water becomes a limiting factor. Now have a look where it is, okay? All right, the Karoo. As soon as I mention the Karoo, all right, that should give you an indication. Have a look, there we go, this large area as well. I'll try to stick to the large area first and then the smaller ones. Okay, it's our Northern Cape, all right? So when I tend to speak about Karoo, you need to start thinking, okay, it doesn't rain as much. There is obviously not as much water. Now because of that, remember what I said, the abiotic having effect on the biotic. Because there's not a lot of water, all right, my plants are going to need to have special adaptations, and maybe my animals as well. Okay, let's have a look, take a closer look. What do we notice? As I said, look at this picture over here. When we start talking about the Nama-Karoo and the succulent Karoo, the words, when it comes to plants, what I want you to be able to is xerophytes. I'm going to write it over here. A xerophyte is a plant that is adapted to a lack of water. Okay? So if I were to look at all of these, this over here, believe it or not, is a pebble plant or a stone. That is a plant. All right? But it doesn't look like a plant because it doesn't want to be eaten. These are succulents. What do we mean by that? It stores water. All right, so it's got big fleshy leaves. It's got maybe big root systems. It's how it's made is to make sure that it loses as little water as possible. Why would it want to lose water when it doesn't get enough? Have a look here. Summers, not hot, very, very hot. Winters, ice cold. all right? Look at the ground, pebbly, rocks, not a lot of soil, all right? And if there is a bit of soil, it's very thin. So we're not going to have these huge, big, gigantic trees. Have a look at the organisms that live in that area, all right? They're the ones that your leopard, your baboon, your ostrich, right, that don't need a whole lot of vegetation. Small animals, compact, easy to get around. Okay, there's no permanent rivers. There's not enough rainfall. So if there's not enough rain, there's no permanent rivers all the time. But those of you, when it does get rain, it hides the magic, all right? And there we've got the daisy, the Karoo daisy, right? When the rain comes out, we have this blossoming magical carpet of flowers.
Ready for a break?
I think so, sure. Time goes so quickly when you...
Go take a break,
Yeah.
go have some water, because in the Karoo, I'm pretty sure you would need some. So we'll see you right off the break. Grade 10s. Welcome, grade 10. So I have to tell you, mindset needs you. I need you to go and ask your teachers well, we have a competition, well, it's not really a competition, but we would like teachers to come and do a grade 10 to 12 CAPS, which is in content development, review, as well as video presentation. And you can do this by entering your teacher's name at www.mindset.co.za/learn/jobs. You enter all the details on that application and you send it through. It'll be here at the Mindset Studios, and then ding ding ding, it ends on the 26th of August. So please do that as soon as you can, and I really hope you guys get through. I love the questions that you're posting, and I'm going to take Daniel's question for Cheryl. Let me just get it. Oh, I think, Daniel, do you live in Limpopo? Because you said, I think, something about Limpopo, so I'm quite impressed. You asked us, let me just get your questions. Oh, gosh.
You asked about the effect of the
Abiotic, yes.
Yeah.
How do abiotic factors affect living organisms? Cheryl,
All right.
please inform us.
Daniel, I'm going to use the next biome to try and explain to you, right, how it affects it. So try and see if what I'm trying to get through to you, and then we'll see how, if you understand. If not, you can maybe post Megan and we can help you out at the end. The next biome is going to be the succulent Karoo. All right, have a look where it is. It's what we would call our not the Western Cape, but it's upwards there, all right? But on the western side, it is part of the Western Cape, not Cape Town, right? We know that's got a different area altogether, so I'm going to, the red shows you where it is. Okay, now I want you to have a look at the pictures, and this is for you, Daniel. All right. I want you to have a look there at the ground. What do you notice? Lots of pebbles. All right, the ground is so what's the abiotic? The abiotic is the soil. Okay, the abiotic is the soil. Not too much soil there. Quite rocky. All right, and if it's quite rocky, I'm not going to have a lot of vegetation. Do you see any big trees? All right, do you see any large structures? No, because the abiotic, the soil, all right, isn't good enough for the living things, the trees, to grow there. Okay. Also, what you noticed, have a look. All right, dry. It can be quite dry. Have a look over here. All right, varies. Rainfall varies. All right, so what do we find here? All of a sudden, we've got an area that doesn't have a lot of rain. Now, because it doesn't have a lot of rain, abiotic, rain is water. Okay, not a lot of rain. What's not going to grow there? A lot of plants. You're also not going to find huge, big, gigantic animals because they are going to need water. Have a look at what you find there. The animals, small little creatures that are quite comfortable, right, in this rocky outcrop. There you've got your fox, all right. Here you've got your dussie, all right. And here,
Timon.
your surrogate, Timon.
I'm telling you, this is a Lion King episode. You better watch out.
There's your surrogate. And your surrogate, right, these are all creatures that are adapted to this environment that doesn't have a lot of water, all right, that might have winter rainfall. Its summers are very, very hot. So because of the climatic conditions, no water, abiotic, very, very hot, abiotic. Okay, the soil, not very fertile, abiotic. It has an effect on the plants and the animals that I'm going to find there. Right, over here though, again, if you have a look, when we think of the succulent karoo, those of you who live in the area, it's the Maqualand daisies. Right, during this time of the year, August, September, it's a huge big tourist attraction, because what happens, as I said to you before, these areas that are usually just dull and just look like they're so boring and they go on forever, inside there's this germinating seed for the daisies, and these carpets and carpets of beautiful flowers, right, just for a small space of time they appear, and as you can see, right, it looks like this. Now if you have a look, lots of you will say, oh, but I do see water there, okay, because it is on the coast. Now you also need to remember, those of you who are geography people, what do we notice on the side, on the Cape side? All right, if I have to go over here, we'll do it when we do the aquatic next time. I want you to just quickly bring to your attention here. You have got currents, all right, that come down the coast. On the side over here, the current is nice and warm. But on this side, the current is cold. All right, it's actually coming that way, should I say. It's coming from down yonder. The water is cold. And very often, cold air, right, doesn't rise. And because it doesn't rise, it doesn't condense. And because the condensation doesn't occur, we don't have precipitation. So you can actually live right next to the ocean, yet inland you're going to have you actually have quite dry conditions because of that cold water, that cold air, all right, that doesn't rise. You actually you don't have the water. The water will stay in the sea, so to speak, all right, as the ocean. It doesn't actually cause rain. Whereas on this side, all right, when we're going to have a look at some of our biomes, there's far more plants because there's far more rainfall. And that's because the warm current causes the air to rise, becomes unstable, and precipitation occurs. Okay, all right. The next one we're going to look at, this is, I won't say it's South Africa's most famous, but in a way it is. This is the fynbos, and it's the area around Cape Town, Table Mountain. And this area over here, this has got very, very, all right, special plants. What we see here is the word, another terminology word. About it's a small biome. But we have got plants in this biome that are endemic to South Africa. And endemic means that they are found here, all right, and nowhere else in the world. So in other words, their natural environment is here, all right? They didn't come from anywhere else. They're not found anywhere else. They are specific to this country. They also form part throughout the world, they've got these hotspots, these areas of biodiversity. In other words, there's a space, and the variety of the living things is absolutely awesome. And what they call them is the floral kingdoms. And South Africa, here, the fynbos, all right, has one of the 6 floral kingdoms, all right, sitting there in our Cape province. The biodiversity of the fynbos, all right, is specific just to our country. When we talk about fynbos, what the first things often when it comes to mind are the proteas. All right, the proteas. If you have a look, I put Table Mountain there because that's the area in which it's found. Our proteas, all right, are endemic to that area. You will also see the sugar birds, all right, coming to the plants. Those of you who've been traveling the wine route, all right, grapevines, that's where lots of our wine is growing, olives for olive oil, all right? Also, you'll find that's a product that is also uniquely South African, rooibos tea. That's also part of the area that's going to be there. If you have a look at the animal life, not overly large, but baboons are definitely a problem. One, the geometric tortoise, all right, something that's endemic to this country, very noticeable. Now, if we have a look at, all right, if we have a look over here, again, we think of the Cape, let's think of the winters. Winters, rain, right? Winter rainfall, summers can be hot and dry, right? And also, if you listen to the news carefully, quite often, all right, you will hear about forest fires that are on the sides of the mountains. And although it can be quite devastating, it actually has another effect as well. Some of the fynbos, the seeds, actually need fire to germinate. So that fire actually helps the seeds to germinate and to sprout and to grow. So although it can be destructive, it also has a very beneficial function, right, of being able to increase the growth once again, those dormant seeds that are lying there to be able, all right, for them to germinate. So as you can see, a beautiful pot. Look at the soil, all right? Not overly large, look at, again, not overly large trees, not forests, etc. So it's telling you that your soil is slightly fertile, yes, all right, but it's not fertile enough to be able to stay in these really, really large plants. Okay, fynbos, endemic species, right, one of the floral kingdoms. Now going to our very small ones. Now when we talk about forests, you'll see I've got to use pointers, and that pointer literally means, okay, this little area over here and this little area over here. It is our smallest biome. Lots of you, when I talk about forest and I mention Knysna or the Tsitsikamma forest, that is what we're going to, obviously, that's what you need to think about. When forest is trees, large trees, and what you need a lots and lots of moisture, mild climates, right? Nothing too extreme. So what do we find here? Look, the soil is deep and fertile, right? A tree needs a lot and lots of soil to grow in. The rainfall, it rains throughout the year, okay? What do we need to sustain large trees? We need to have lots of water, and we need to have a constant supply of water. Okay, those of you who've gone through the forest, it's cool, it's humid, it's moist, there's like this water drippling effect around you. It's because all the water vapor, etc., given off of the plant. When we look at our plants and our animals, all right, we don't find, although there was, all right, the elephants, those of you who read Dali and Mattia books, etc., very often you'll see the elephants in the Knysna forest, right? But you're going to find small little animals underneath. You're going to find your bush pigs. You're going to find your little duiketjies, all right? This is a lory, the Knysna lory, right? A bird very specific to that region. And when we look at our plants, look at the trees. All right, we're looking at these big trees close to each other. All right, one of the words I've got here is an epiphyte. And what an epiphyte is, if I just go here, is a tree, a plant that grows on another plant. So imagine that's a tree bush. Here's a plant, grows on the stem of because its roots hang in the air. And it doesn't need to, orchids are often that it doesn't need this, the roots don't need to be in the soil. They just need the support, all right, from a tree, and all the moisture. Remember that there's lots of water in the air of the forest. All the moisture, all right, gets seeped in through these roots. So that is going to be your epiphyte. Okay, our last terrestrial biome is our thicket. Now, our thicket is here, our KwaZulu-Natal coastline. All right, it's a very thin region all along there. Okay, And I've got a voice in my head saying we need to finish. If we have a look there, all right, what do we notice again? Not a lot of thicket, lots of small shrubs, lots of bush, thick bush, not a lot of big trees. Those of you who've been down to Durban, you should know by now, the monkeys. All right, you're going to see the monkeys. And now we are finished.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you so much. It's been so much to learn, but thank you, grade 10s. Join in next week, same time, same place. Have a great afternoon.